Welcome to Keto Meals and Recipes.com. Some of my favorite autumn desserts use pumpkin puree, and as a follow-up recipe to my pumpkin pie with cinnamon cream, I will be making a spicy pumpkin and hazelnut cream custard, which of course is always keto, sugar-free, and gluten-free. The macronutrient ratio for this recipe is 4.1 to 1, with 4.6 grams of total carbs, 0.9 grams of dietary fiber, resulting in 3.7 grams of net carbs. The macros also include the whipped cream. There are only a few steps to this recipe, and it's very easy and quick to make. Preheat a large skillet and then dry roast the raw hazelnuts on low heat. Toss with a spatula, and when the hazelnuts begin to smell nice, remove them from the heat and scoop them into a cool bowl. When your hazelnuts are cooled, try to remove as much of the dark outer skin as you can, but don't worry if you don't get it all, and set aside for later. In the meanwhile, take your granulated sweetener and grind it to a confectionery texture and set this aside as well. Next, prepare your gelatin. In a small pot, put about an inch or so of water and bring it up to a simmer. In a small bowl or into your measuring cup, which has 1/3 cup of water, sprinkle the gelatin powder over the room temperature water and stir. Then turn off the heat and leave the bowl with the gelatin in the warm water so that the gelatin stays as a liquid. But remember to stir once in a while. With this technique, you will notice that the gelatin has turned clear, and that's what you want. By now your hazelnuts have cooled, so place them in a Ziploc baggie and hit them with the meat hammer until the pieces are very fine but not powdered. Alternatively, you could use your food processor and pulse to achieve the small chunky texture and then set that aside. It's also a very good idea to make your stabilized whipped cream right now. To make the cream, please refer to the stabilized whipped cream frosting video. I have added this as an end link for your convenience. For this recipe, all you have to do is reduce the entire recipe by half. In other words, you only need 1 cup of heavy whipping cream and 1 envelope of prepared Knox gelatin powder. Don't be tempted to add any sweetener or flavor into this cream, because it might overpower the taste of the delicate custard. Into a mixing bowl, add the pure pumpkin puree. Remember to check the label if you're using a store-bought product. The only listed ingredient on the can should be pumpkin puree. To your bowl, also add the melted butter. Next, add the lemon zest, confectionery sweetener, powdered ginger, powdered nutmeg, and the cinnamon powder, the lemon juice. Add the heavy whipping cream and stir to combine. Add your previously chopped hazelnuts and stir well to combine everything. This is an optional but recommended step. Place all the pumpkin blend into a food processor or blender. Stir to incorporate all your ingredients before you drizzle on the gelatin liquid. And pulse for about 60 seconds to ensure best distribution of all the ingredients. As you can see, the texture is slightly grainy, not completely smooth. The small hazelnut chunks which are throughout this puree will provide a nice contrast to the smoothness of the pumpkin and cream. Also, you will be able to taste the hazelnuts more directly as a result of these small bits throughout the mix. To whip your egg whites, place them into a mixing bowl and add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. Then whip at high speed until the egg whites are at a stiff peak stage. Now back to the pumpkin puree. To make things easier, I scooped out the pumpkin mixture from my blender and put it back into my mixing bowl. Next, scoop out about 2 cups of whipped egg whites and place that into the bowl with pumpkin mix. Blend everything to combine well. Doing this step will make it easier to combine this pumpkin mixture with the rest of the egg whites. Take about half of this mixture and add it to your whipped egg whites. And fold together carefully to deflate the egg whites as little as possible. Then add the second half of the mix to the egg whites and fold and combine again. This is all there is to making the spicy pumpkin pie hazelnut custard. The second last step is to get your 6 small ramekins and scoop out about 1/2 cup into each ungreased ramekin. You may find that you may get a little less or a bit more per ramekin. This variability will depend on the volume of each of your egg whites, how fresh they were when you began, and how much your mix deflated when you combined the ingredients. So just do your best and scoop out an equal quantity per ramekin. To set the custard, refrigerate for about an hour or until the custard is firm. When your custard has set, remove from the refrigerator and using a piping bag, create a large swirl of stabilized whipped cream on top of the pumpkin in each ramekin. Or if you prefer, simply use a large spoon to add a large dollop of whipped cream on top. The texture of this dessert is somewhat like a firm custard with tasty, crunchy bits of hazelnut throughout. This is not a pumpkin pie. The flavor and texture are quite different. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's an alternative dessert for you to enjoy the taste of pumpkin. Now that your spicy hazelnut cream custard is ready to serve, enjoy. Thank you for watching and see you next time. The links to the printable recipes are in the description below.